Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and you're joining us today for another episode of Crime Writers of Canada's podcast. And we are continuing this series of interviewing members of Crime Writers of Canada who have been nominated for awards of excellence in 2026. Joining me today is my friend Madeline Harris Callway. Hi, Madeline. How are you?
Hi, Eric. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too. We do this every couple of years when you are nominated for a short story.
True.
This year, you're nominated for The Lost Diner, which was in issue 47 of Pulp Literature Press for Best Crime Short Story, sponsored by Crime Writers of Canada. A little bit about you. M.H. Callway's crime fiction has won and been shortlisted for several leading awards, including Crime Writers of Canada's Award of Excellence, the Debut Dagger, and the Derringer. Her thriller, Windigo Fire, was a finalist for Crime Writers of Canada's Best First Novel Award. In 2013, she and Donna Carrick of Carrick's Publishing co-founded Les Mesdames and Messieurs of Mayhem, a collective of established Canadian crime writers. They are the subject of a critically acclaimed CBC documentary, The Mesdames of Mayhem, which you can view on CBC GEMs and YouTube. I read Your Lost Diner. It's a beautiful noir short story, but at the same time, I don't know what I should say about it, so I'm going to let you talk about it, Madeline. Tell us about The Lost Diner.
Well, it's a character I've used before in a similar story, and it's about um, a woman who is 62 years old who is driving cars from Canada into the United States. And the way I got the idea was our brother-in-law's brother works for Canada, and in between shifts, that's what he did for a living. When he would drive cars down to the United States, and mostly for people who retire to Florida or to even New Mexico during or go down for the winter, and he would have this job and he would drive down and then fly back. And I thought, well, that's like a really cool idea. So I, of course, embellished it by having my hero Terry, who's driving for a criminal organization or a very shady car dealer. And she drives the cars down into the United States, but she doesn't know what's in them and she doesn't ask questions. So this story is a little different because her son is involved, and her son warns her at the beginning of this latest gig that she has with the shady car dealer and tells her that sends her to a storage locker and warns her that there's something that's going down, and which she does. But then fate intervenes and she ends up having to take a rural route. And there she goes into the backwoods of wherever in the United States. Take your pick. I think I made it New York State. I'm not sure, but New York State is pretty big and pretty wild. And there's a very shady diner, and the denizens of the diner do some very shady things. And then it's the suspense from then on.
Yeah, it's definitely dark. Let's go with
I
that without saying
don't.
too much. And it's an interesting, I don't know, story in the sense if even like what she's doing. Like she's driving a BMW across the border. Yeah, she doesn't know what's in the car. I'm assuming it's bad. And if she gets caught by the border security, she's in a lot of trouble. But then maybe it helps that she's a 62-year-old woman as opposed to a 25-year-old man. She can get
Yes.
through less suspicious, let's say. So you've written about Terry. What's sort of what you left out a little bit was backstory. Was that on purpose? I know it's a short story. You have to carve everything out, but I knew very little about her. Was that intentional?
Yeah, I was. Terry's backstory is that she used to work for an insurance company doing repo, which is, repossessing vehicles. And she was had a very tough childhood. She was a foster child, and she's been independent all her life. But then, sort of late in life, when she was in her late 30s, she met and fell in love with her husband, who was a very ordinary person, an adjuster at the insurance company. And they marry and they have this son, who is the character, one of the characters in the story. And her husband dies of a heart attack, and she has to go back to work. So that's her
Mhm.
backstory.
I feel like I know her
She's
better now.
Yeah, she's tough. She's tough.
She is tough, and again, I don't want to say too much, but she can handle a firearm and she can drive better than I can. So she's an
Me
interesting
too.
person.
Me too.
You've written a fair amount of short stories, and they vary in tone quite often from comedy to dark. In your writing process, do you sit down and say, I'm going to write a comedy, I'm going to write a noir, or do you just start writing and then be like, oh, well, this is leading to be a lighter story. Let's keep it light. Let's add some jokes.
I think I know I decide from the beginning whether I'm going to make it funny or whether I'm going to make it dark. The funny ones I tend to keep with I have a continuing character called Benjamin Amder, who's a beleaguered civil servant, and I spent most of my career in the public sector, and I could totally tell you if you want to learn about it, read that old book. It's old now, Yes, Minister, because that the guy didn't. It's not comedy. The guy just documented everything, and so it's so bad you've got to play up the absurdity. And so I tend to keep those things comedic, like that particular character is in the comedy thing. But I think what I do is I tend to have, I guess, a dark vision. I'm not really sure why. And when I sort of set out to write, things can get kind of dark. I mean, my biggest surprise was that when Worlds Collide, they put me on a horror panel, and I went, "What? A horror panel? I don't write horror, but then I guess I kind of do." You know, I don't read it. I don't like it. I don't watch it. It's like classic stuff like Clive Barker and Stephen King. Of course, I've read that, but I'm not a big horror fan. But then apparently I write it, and I'm not really sure why it comes out that way. But you know, maybe again, it's having been working in the public sector, it gives you a really cynical attitude.
I've worked in the public sector, so I can see it.
You know what I'm talking about.
I was on your website, and one of the things coming up is the Bonnie Blythe uh, Cozy Festival in Toronto. It's been going on for a while. You're on a panel of AI, which I was a little surprised to see.
I was
Could you,
surprised too.
so it's either horror or AI for you. Could you tell us a little bit about the Bonnie Blythe, and at the same time, very quickly, what's your thoughts on AI?
The Bodie Blythe is a 1 day festival here in Toronto. It takes place this Friday week, May 15th, and in downtown Toronto. It's just 1 day. There'll be 5 panels. AI is the first panel of the day, which I happen to be on. And there's some really interesting discussions. I think it's mostly the panels be great interest for people who've been writing for a while. It's sort of like where you get your inspiration. That's one of the panels. What about pivoting? Like, do you go from novels to short stories and back again? Or even, many of my friends write in several genres, not just crime. I'm not really sure why Cheryl put me on AA. It might be because in my previous life I was an IT consultant, although I didn't I didn't do any programming. I'm a senior business analyst, and so I don't know anything really about the technical aspects. Well, my personal feeling is I'm trying to really understand a little bit more about it. I think there's a lot of hype. I think I'm worried it's going to be a big bubble. It could be a huge crash, like the dot-com crash, many, many years ago. Financially, that could be a bit of a disaster. I think I did actually, in preparation for the panel, I did have a look at ChatGPT because I'd heard people authors say that they sometimes use it for plotting.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of interesting. It threw up things like Save the Cat, which is sort of a go-to, but for people who want to learn how to plot novels, for instance. So it came up. So I said, plot me a ghost story because I happen to be working on a ghost story right now, a novella. And it was kind of standard, like you've seen 1,000 horror movies like it. And
Mhm.
and I thought, well, yeah, I guess if you really want to just be doing slop content, as they say, AI slop content, and you're not really looking for a unique vision or a unique insight, it's probably very tempting to use it. but I don't think it has that nuance or a depth of human experience. And that's why we write. We write from human experience, different insights and different life experiences, and that's what you sort of blend into your work. Does that answer your question?
It answers it very well. Thank you. I've tried it too, and I've put in like paragraphs that I've written and say like rewrite it, and then it's like, well, it doesn't sound like me anymore. Like, it,
No.
it lost the soul of me. So it's an interesting, and I know as authors we're gonna have to keep track of that one. In your bio, we mentioned Les Mesdames et Messieurs of Mayhem. You're a co-founder of it. I know they're always busy. What are you gals and guys getting up to now?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Eric, because are just putting together our seventh anthology, and I can't believe we've been around. We're sticking around now. We were founded in 2013, so it's our 13th year. So our collective voted on the title, which is The Power of 13, which
Ooh.
is our brand.
Mhm.
Right? And it also, so we've got all the stories are in now. They're great. And we'll be sort of doing the book creation, or well, Donna Garrick will be doing the book creation over the next few months. We're hoping to come out and have it launched in time for BoucherCon, which is going to be this October in Calgary. And the stories that have come in tend to be lighter in tone, I think, because of all the stuff that's going on in the world now. We want to get more traditional, more optimistic. There's some very funny ones in there.
Oh, something to look forward to then. Um, I tell everyone, and I told you 2 years ago, I don't know who won your category. I'm rooting for all of you. Your story
Thank
was
you.
great. A good reason to pick up pulp literature if anybody was even considering it, because the Lost Diner was a lot of fun to read.
It's an excellent, excellent publication. I'm really glad it's there, and it was a real honor to be published. It's very difficult to get in, but I always find the stories fascinating, and just I subscribe myself, and I love them all.
All right, so short story lovers, pulp fiction, or sorry, pulp literature, and stay tuned for the next Madame and Messieurs anthology. Thanks, Madeline.
Thank you so much, Eric.